All right, in this video today, over the next 45 minutes, we're gonna show you everything you need to know before making the move here to Waterloo, Ontario. We're gonna go look at the map of Waterloo. I'm gonna explain the various travel times, the traffic, the bottlenecks that can occur, especially during rush hour traffic. And then we're gonna give you a brief overview of every single neighborhood here within Waterloo, Ontario. So by the end of this video, you'll be able to rule out over 90% of the neighborhoods that don't work for you. Let's hop onto my computer right now. This is a general map of Waterloo. We'll first look at the various traffic times. So right now I have it set to a typical Monday at 4:45 p.m. in the afternoon, so typical rush hour traffic. And one thing I'd like to clarify in this video is the fact that Waterloo, Ontario is an absolute breeze to get around. Light traffic volumes. We'll look at the map right here, and as you can see in green, that's where traffic is flowing fairly well. Yellow and then red, of course, that's pretty much dead traffic where you're going to be stop and go. Now, compared to other cities, Waterloo is actually quite nice. As we can see from the map here, there isn't much going on in terms of travel times and slowdowns. The only one that you have to be aware of here is kind of on Highway 85, the local highway system here, as we refer to it as locals, as the expressway. And that's basically between University Ave to Bridgeport is where you're going to encounter that traffic in the late afternoons. And obviously in the morning, you're going to encounter that traffic going north. In the afternoons, it's going to be south. Another key difference too that I find, if we zoom in a little bit further here, take you towards the beginning of Kitchener, in the mornings, the traffic tends to build up closer to Victoria Street. Typically what we see is it begins here on Victoria Street. There is a bit of traffic that goes all the way to Bridgeport. One way to avoid this traffic is actually to take the collector's lane. Usually what happens is it bottles up on the left-hand side, so just stick to the right-hand side of the road and you'll be able to bypass a lot of that traffic if you are commuting from Kitchener to Waterloo, especially during the morning. During the day, absolute breeze to get around. Again, let's kind of give you a visual perspective of how great the traffic is and how little the traffic is compared to other cities. So Waterloo here in the north, as you can see on the map. Guelph, again, a little bit of traffic, but let's look at a place like Burlington and Hamilton here. A lot of yellow, a lot of green. You're encountering traffic in a lot of areas. Burlington, again, tons of traffic at this time. 4:45 on your typical Monday. Milton, a little bit of traffic there through 401 from, Milton outlets down to the western point of Milton. And then, of course, Toronto and Mississauga, kind of a complete disaster there in terms of getting around, especially here, through Don Mills. I mean, I feel sorry for people that live in Toronto. Trying to get around by car is an absolute disaster. Now, let's say you want to exit the city, you want to enjoy your weekend. Maybe you're looking at seeing Toronto and the sites that are there. Typically, what we're looking at is about an hour and 20-minute drive, and that's east. If we go to Pearson International Airport, we're looking at about 58 minutes, and we're taking it from the perspective Uptown Waterloo, so you're going to be right in the thick of things. Obviously, if you are on the eastern side, closer to Highway 85, it will be a little bit quicker than that, maybe about 5 minutes. Another great reason to choose Waterloo, Ontario as a place to live is the excellent airport that we have here in the Waterloo region that services Cambridge, Kitchener, and Waterloo and surrounding areas. And that's about a 15 to 20 minute drive, depending where you are in the city of Waterloo. And it is an international airport. If we take a look at the destinations here, we're looking at Calgary, Alberta, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Vancouver, the United States, and of course, some seasonal options as well when it comes to getting away and enjoying the sun during the winter months. Taking a look here, if you want to go to Niagara Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world, that's going to be directly east, and you're about an hour and 40 minutes. Now, in terms of bodies of water, in terms of getting to a nice beach during the summer months, I think Grand Bend is probably going to be the best option here. And we're looking at about an hour and a half drive, and that's going to be on Lake Huron. Crystal clear blue Water's absolutely gorgeous. And one of the benefits of kind of living in Waterloo is you're close to 3 lakes. You're about an hour from everything. So to the west, we're looking at Lake Huron, to the south, Lake Erie, and then to the east, we're looking at Lake Ontario. Now, another great benefit of living in Waterloo, and I have had a lot of clients recently move from the Greater Toronto area. We have the Kitchener Go, so we have daily trips both in the morning and afternoon from the Kitchener Go station all the way to the Union station. So I've had a few clients in the past that are working 2 days from the office and 3 days from home. So Kitchener and Waterloo is a great option, and it's right kind of in the geographical center of the two cities. So if you live in Waterloo or Kitchener, definitely a great option, especially if you're taking public transit. Now let's look at some of the neighborhoods here. I'm going to give you a brief overview of all of them, really focusing in on the age of the buildings there. I know many times when I'm speaking to people, they typically say, okay, I only want to look at homes that are 10 years old or 20 years old, or I'm open to anything from the 1900s. I like that design. I like the style of home. So I think I'd really like to highlight in this video. We'll take a look back at the Waterloo map here. Kind of zoom in right now. Just to reiterate, the Uptown core here of Waterloo, very walkable, very nice, tons of restaurant, very family friendly. You can see families out there at times, a lot of college students as well, but that's kind of going to be here in the northern end, closer to the two great universities here of Conestoga College campus, University of Waterloo, and Laurier. Now, when it comes to neighborhoods, we're going to go from the eastern side and work our way west. We're going to go right here to the eastern corner. This is Country Squire. Country Squire right here is the one of probably the most luxurious neighborhood, or second most luxurious neighborhood here within the city of Waterloo. And what you're going to encounter in this neighborhood are very large lots, very large homes, and we're talking $2 million plus in order to get into this neighborhood. And you're very much secluded. You really do feel like you are out in the country when you are living in Country Squire. Heading back to the map here, we're going to go slightly west. Now this area right here, this is called Carriage Crossing, and that's between University Ave East and Country Squire Road here. And typically within this area, we're going to find homes built primarily in the mid 2010s to late 2010s. Executive style townhomes you can find in this neighborhood. Excellent detached options, double car garage, lots of larger homes, 2,500 square feet plus above grade. A few great options in terms of condominiums, traditional apartment condominiums, and that's going to kind of be right here where Millennium Boulevard is. And these are going to be very generous in size. I find many times when working with clients, a lot of them are looking in that space of condominiums, but most of the condominiums that have been built recently cater to the investor client. So they're typically smaller floor plans and maximizing the amount of bedrooms and bathrooms. This development here within the Carriage Crossing location really caters to the end user. Very generous. You're going to find 2-bedroom floor plans with over 1,000 square feet. Moving on to the next location here, we're going to go west, and this is going to be Eastbridge here, a great family-friendly neighborhood. It's fairly large, bordered by Bridge Street West, Lexington Road, and University Ave East. A great benefit, if you do have children, they might be spending a lot of time here at Rim Park. They have multiple soccer fields, multiple hockey rinks, multiple indoor soccer fields, quite a few of the local teams here. If your son or daughter are playing for any of the local teams, their home base will most likely be at Rim Park. So that's one of the conveniences. If you have to have a early hockey practice in the morning at 5 a.m., which is not atypical. And within this neighborhood here of Eastbridge, we're looking at homes primarily built in the mid 2000s to early 2000s. And what I find in this neighborhood, it's excellent. You aren't paying a premium really to be in Eastbridge compared to other neighborhoods. So it's definitely a good option. And we're talking, double car garage homes, single car garage homes. And you can find anything here in the high 700s up to, $1.2 million. So definitely a great option if that you're kind of looking for even a starter home per se on the higher end there. Now, moving on to one of my favorite areas within Waterloo, absolutely one of the pinnacles of luxury. We're going to go to Colonial Acres and Colonial Estates, and that's going to be this area highlighted on the map here, Lexington Road, Bridge Street West, and bordered by Conestoga Mall. Conestoga Mall, for those of you who don't know, that's the major shopping center in the city of Waterloo. Myself, I live in Kitchener. I find myself going to Conestoga Mall for my shopping necessities. Now, I'd like to segment this area a little bit further. And this area here, bordered by Davenport Road to the southern end, I will highlight in blue. Right here, Kings Court Drive and west towards Conestoga Mall is very much unlike the rest of Colonial Acres. A bit of low income housing. I myself, if I had a client that was looking in this neighborhood, it is something I would definitely shy away from. And you're not saving that much money buying in this neighborhood compared to being on the eastern side. Fox Hunt, Red Fox Road, much better in terms of safety, in terms of crime, in terms of the general vibe of the area. And then, of course, on the northern end, absolutely stunning homes. This neighborhood in particular was featured in my video on the most expensive areas within Waterloo, Ontario. If you want to watch that video, you certainly can now. And these homes here, they can range anywhere from, $1 million if you're not in Colonial Estates, you're just in the Colonial Acres area. And if you are in Colonial Acres, which are these roads kind of encompassing in here, you're looking anywhere from, 1.5 $3 million, $4 million on the absolute top end. Moving on to the next location here, we're going to go to Lincoln Village. And Lincoln Village is this area highlighted on the map, which is Lexington Road, bordered by Bridge Street West and University Ave East. The great thing I like about this area is you're close to the expressway right here. So getting around town, absolute breeze. And in this neighborhood, typically what we find are the homes in this neighborhood range kind of within that 60s to 70s range. So you're going to get much wider lots. You're going to get unique floor plans. You're going to get single detached homes that can be bungalows. They can be 2 stories. They can be side splits. They can be back splits. So there's a lot of variation compared to the newer neighborhoods. And I think there's some great value to be had in this area. And you're looking anywhere between, $675, $650 on the very low end for an average detached house. And it can go up to $800,000-$900,000 depending on where you are within this neighborhood. But I think this is somewhat of a hidden gem that a lot of people overlook. So I definitely take a look at this neighborhood. We're going to look at the area of Lexington, and that's Bridge Street West, University Ave East, and then Lexington again. And this area, again, very similar to Lincoln Village, but a little bit more upscale. You're going to find larger homes in this area, a lot more detached 2-story homes, anything between 1,800 square feet and above. So in this area, you're kind of looking at that 900K entry point, 12 in terms of detached homes. And I've really focused on detached homes in this particular video, but an excellent neighborhood once again. Larger lots, 50, 60, 70 foot wide lots. Moving on east here, we're going to lightly touch upon Kiwanis Park. And yes, it is in the city of Waterloo. There is a section here that typically the most luxurious area here is going to be on the northern end of Waterloo. And that is probably one of the most luxurious neighborhoods. And that's Kiwanis Park here. We're talking anywhere from $2 to $4 million for a house. Absolutely stunning homes there. All right, moving on south here. This is going to be University Downs, and that's going to be, again, right on the border of Kitchener. So great benefit, again, close to highway, very easy to get around the city. You're in Kitchener in 2 minutes. You're in the northern end of Waterloo in 4 or 5 minutes. Absolute breeze. And again, these homes in particular, really nice. That's going to be late 90s, early 2000s. So again, you're going to be getting slightly smaller lots than you are here west towards Lincoln Village as well as Lexington. But a great location, fairly safe. And on the whole, most neighborhoods within Waterloo are going to be okay. I'd have no problem recommending any of these neighborhoods, and it's all dependent on kind of what your price range is. This one right here is a little bit more friendly on the budget. You're talking larger homes on the 1,600 square feet above grade, a single car garage. Maybe you can find in the high sevens. That's definitely an option within this neighborhood. Shorter side in terms of lots, we're talking 30 to 40 feet, depending, of course, if you're a double or a single car. All right, let's go west here. We're going to go closer to the Uptown core. We are going to Lincoln Heights. Now, Lincoln Heights, fantastic location for a totally different reason. So that is going to be bordered kind of within this area between Bridgeport Road East, bordered by the highway. And typically homes in this neighborhood very similar to Lincoln Village. And these homes, again, 70s, 60s, 80s. And the great part about living in this area is you work very close to Uptown Waterloo. I'll zoom out a little bit here on the map just to show you, get rid of the area in itself. So yeah, you are a short distance to both universities. Laurier University, Conestoga College. You can certainly walk there, a little bit of a longer walk. And I find in this neighborhood too, you're not really paying much of a premium to be in Lincoln Heights. It's pretty middle of the road in terms of pricing, 700s for something on the smaller side, a bungalow, maybe 1,100, 1,200 square feet. That's kind of what you're looking at in this neighborhood. So an excellent real estate option. And again, that's going to be 70s built. Now, if we move on up here, we're going to the northern side here, and there's a small area which was almost like an afterthought, and that's going to be Glen Ridge. Now, Glen Ridge is this small area in here, often overlooked. Most people don't even know that this little neighborhood exists because it's kind of completely secluded, surrounded mostly by commercial buildings, industrial, as well as parks, some greenery in that area, Waterloo wastewater treatment. A lot of people overlook this location. Pretty good location, nothing really bad to say, nothing really good to say. It's kind of really middle of the road. And typically in this neighborhood, we're looking things that were built early 2000s, 2001 to about like 07, 08 for the most part. So not old by any stretch of the imagination, but not certainly new. Another thing to highlight, if we go here to the satellite map, you don't really have to pay a particular attention to this area of the map here, as this is completely industrial and commercial land. So you won't be living in here. I don't think this will ever be converted into residential space at all in the future. So that's something you don't really have to think about. We're going to move west, and there are very few neighborhoods I would shy away from. But one in particular that I would is Sunnydale. One of two neighborhoods in Waterloo that I wouldn't suggest purchasing. Reason being is the crime rate is much higher than it is in other neighborhoods within this city of Waterloo. And as you can see on the map here, pretty central, north central location, even into Lakeshore Village. Lakeshore Village, I think on the northern side here. So this is Lakeshore Village. I will highlight. Sunnydale's a very small area again. On the northern side of Glen Forest, this side, so northwestern side, quite nice. I don't mind it at all. I mean, relatively safe. There's a huge divide, I find, with Sunnydale here on the southern side, more like low-income housing. Perfectly fine, but it's just one thing to kind of highlight if you are buying for the future. Another great benefit of Lakeshore Village is you are close to the University of Waterloo. So if you do have children planning to go to post-secondary, definitely a great option. And you're going to find homes probably on the lower end here. You're looking at, again, detached homes, single car garage, bungalows built 60s and 70s, some stuff really late 50s at some points. And you're not really paying a premium. You're kind of getting a discount in this area. And you're looking at anything between like $665, one that recently sold. And then obviously it goes up from there. And that was probably around 1,100 square feet. Moving on north, I'll go back to the map here. This is going to be Lakeshore North, very similar to Lakeshore Village, but much nicer. I think it's a safer location. I think it's more family friendly. You're right on the northern bounds, so you won't have a crazy amount of traffic on the northern side as you are, approaching St. Jacobs. Another great thing to living in this neighborhood is you're close to St. Jacobs Farmers Market, which is the largest outdoor farmers market within Canada. I live in Kitchener. I even make my way up there every once in a while. Lots of fresh food. A lot of the Mennonites do have locations in there. And another thing that people don't understand about Waterloo, Ontario is we do have a very large Amish population, which is on the northern side of Waterloo, Ontario. And a lot of clients of mine, when they are relocating here, and I tell them, hey, like, don't be surprised if you see people in St. Jacobs riding horse and buggy. And they're like, you gotta be kidding me. There's no way there's people riding in horse and buggy. And it's interesting to see. I mean, you won't really find this anywhere else in Canada to this degree. And it's quite interesting. They have excellent eggs. If you're looking for fresh produce, a lot of these farms here are Amish owned, and they're absolutely fantastic people. But it's something certainly shocking if you're not shocking per se, but it's certainly something very different that you're not really accustomed to. Now, if we go west here, we are in Conservation Meadows. We're on the northwestern end of the city, and that's going to comprise of this area here, very close to Laurelwood Creek Conservation Area. I've highlighted this in a few different videos in terms of the best areas to live in Waterloo. Definitely highlighted that. And Conservation Drive, really nice neighborhood. On this side in particular, we are looking at some executive homes. You know, we're talking, you know, 1 and above. Like, you'll find a lot of stuff, especially on the northern end. On these streets here, you're going to be looking 1.5, 1.8, and of course, you're very secluded, surrounded by green space for the most part. And homes in here are on the newer side, probably around 2010 and newer. Now, Herbsville is this small location. I will go back to the Waterloo map. So back to the Waterloo map here to kind of give you exactly the borders. Herbsville, quite small. There isn't much going on here, as you can see. 1 or 2 streets, mostly farmland. Eventually, this will be developed one day. Maybe, I would say, within the next 20 years, we're going to see a lot more suburbs in this area. Moving on to quite possibly the best neighborhood overall. We have the best schools, not only within Waterloo, but in the Waterloo region. We have schools that are 8 rating and above, some of them even 9, and that's both on the public side and the Catholic side. And that's going to be Laurelwood. Now, Laurelwood, I've had 2 or 3 clients this year actually purchase specifically in this neighborhood. If you read about Waterloo, if you read about the best neighborhoods, Laurelwood is definitely a great option. And if you're looking to make a move here to the Waterloo region, I'd be more than happy to help you. You can book a call with me in the first link in the description, or call, text, or email. Now, in this neighborhood, you will be paying a bit of a premium to be within Laurelwood, but I think it's well worth it. Let's say, for example, a house in this neighborhood is $1 million. You might find something, let's say, in Clair Hills, maybe for around $900,000. So you will have a bit of a, I would say, 10 to 12% premium to being in this location. But again, very good. If you want a more in-depth review, I've highlighted this in the best areas to live in Waterloo, Ontario. You can certainly watch that video now. Moving on to the western side here, we are going to go back to the map here, type in Waterloo, Ontario, and we're going to look at Columbia Forest and Clair Hills and kind of combine these two. Very similar to one another, and that's going to be highlighted here on the map. There's something about this neighborhood. It is so different from Laurelwood itself, even the way that the properties are really treated. Laurelwood, much nicer in terms of, you know, the lawn is very well taken care of. The houses in general are very well maintained. I find that Clair Hills and Columbia Forest, a little bit different. They're not the worst neighborhoods. You are going to be paying less than Laurelwood, and you still have fairly good schools if you are living here on the northern bounds. If you are in Columbia Forest, it's pretty middle of the road, some larger homes, but I think the build quality in this area for the homes that are built there, not really the best, especially on some of those streets. Now let's move on to the next neighborhood here. We're going to look at Vista Hills. Now, Vista Hills, it's a mix. I have a mix of emotions for this one. I don't know how to feel about this one. A lot of people really do like this neighborhood. It's right here on the very northwestern tip of Waterloo, Ontario. The one thing that it really takes away from this neighborhood is the fact of getting out of this neighborhood takes a while. You do have a lot of conveniences, though, at the same time once you're out of the area. If you look here to the south, you have Costco, the only Costco in Waterloo, Ontario. So you'll be able to do all of your shopping there if you'd like at a great discount. So I know a lot of clients of mine have highlighted they want to be near a Costco. So that's one location. Great school in Vista Hills Public School, one of the better schools within the area. And then of course, if you're looking for new construction, if you're looking for new homes, this is a great area. As you can see on the map here, they're still building within this area. So if you're looking for new construction, this area is an excellent choice. All right, let's move east. I know that this is going to be a long video. Bear with me here. I want to give you as much value as I can, all within one video. A very brief introduction to every single neighborhood here within the city of Waterloo. Let's take a look at the next one, Beachwood. Beachwood is very coveted. I believe it's one of the most coveted areas within Waterloo, Ontario, and for good reason. But let's segment this even further. I know on the map on Google, it's highlighting here, Beachwood is this massive area of land, and there is quite a bit of difference within these neighborhood. So if you take this in the middle here, let's look at the Beachwood side first. And this is going to be what I would deem old Beachwood. So old Beachwood is going to be this side on the northern end. And in this neighborhood, it is very beautiful, very mature trees. We're looking at homes primarily built in the 70s and early 80s. Very beautiful homes. You'll see on the images here that I have overlaid absolutely stunning homes within this neighborhood. Another benefit of living in this neighborhood is you do have homeowners associations. So they have multiple swimming pools, multiple tennis courts within this area. So if you are living, let's say, in the northern end of Old Beachwood, there's definitely a swimming pool within a 5-minute walk. So that's one of the benefits. If you have children, you just send them over there to the swimming pools. They do have lifeguards during the summer. So that's one of the major draws to this area that you won't find in any other neighborhood within Waterloo are these homeowners associations. Now let's take particular note here though of the south side of Keats Way. So this is still technically Beachwood, but very different from the northern side. In terms of the crime rates are going to be much higher in this area. The homes are going to be much smaller. But again, there is some value to be had here. You're going to be able to find homes detached under 700,000 within the city of Waterloo. So if that's and the relative location compared to the city is quite good as well, right? You're close to the University of Waterloo, you're close to Uptown Waterloo, and you're still relatively close to the expressway, given that you are living in Waterloo. Now, we'll go back to the map here, and we'll look at this side, the western side. Now, this is going to be Beachwood, or newer Beachwood per se, and this northern end, this is upper, and this is West Beachwood. Both incredibly beautiful. It's going to be very similar to the eastern side of Old Beachwood, but it's going to be newer. We're talking 80s and 90s, very beautiful homes within this area. So, but again, you are going to be paying a premium as well to live in either two of these compared to, let's say, Clair Hills or Columbia Forest, but for very good reason. These are absolutely gorgeous neighborhoods. A lot of these owners within this neighborhood, they bought them brand new and they're not leaving. A lot of them die in these homes and they end up being estate sales. People pick them up and they stay there again forever. That's one thing to definitely note. Is within these neighborhoods, a lot of people buy and they don't never leave for very good reason. All right, that finishes up Beachwood here. We're almost done with this. Few more neighborhoods to highlight here. So let's go to Maple Hills, very similar to Westmount. Westmount, one of the best areas to live within Waterloo, Ontario. Beautiful, stunning homes, very close to Uptown Waterloo, both Maple Hills and Westmount. They're going to be very similar. Homes built, for the most part, 60s and 50s and 70s. Maple Hills is more 60s and 70s, where Westmount is going to be even older than that. But then again, in Westmount, you're going to find brand new homes as well. You're going to have homes that were torn down, maybe smaller bungalows. And now you have these large homes, 3,000, 3,500 square feet homes, completely custom. We're talking, $500 to $1,000 a square foot or even more in terms of the build. Definitely Westmount and Maple Hills, if you do have the money to live in any of these neighborhoods, definitely a great option. I think long term, this is an amazing play if you're thinking about investing in a property and living there full time, as the property values, especially within Westmount, as you are closer to Uptown Waterloo, will potentially increase in the future. Now, if we go west, we're going to go to Westvale, an excellent neighborhood. A lot of people I've seen in the comments before, why don't you talk about Westvale? Well, I'm doing it right now. One of the benefits of living in Westvale, fairly new, we're talking 90s, not brand new per se, but we're not old in any stretch of the imagination. So 90s and 2000s, fairly large homes. You can find anything from 1,500 square feet on the very low end. We're talking around 900K, all the way to 2,600 square feet on the higher end. You are close to the boardwalk, which is one of the largest shopping areas, not only within Waterloo, but in Ontario in general, in terms of having one area. And this is almost 1 kilometer in length and a few hundred meters wide. So everything is there. Anything you can practically think of is in this location. You have an excellent gym in Movati Athletic. You have landmark cinemas. You have Sport Check. You have Walmart, multiple restaurants, multiple coffee shops, multiple banks. Everything is within this location. Only drawback to this location is unfortunately you are close to the dump, which I'll highlight here in red. Now that's going to comprise of this area here. Why is it a drawback to living to the dump? Well, it's the smell. It depends on your nose. Because I've been in this area with clients and I said, hey, have you smelled anything that's off-putting per se? And a lot of them say, no, I haven't smelled anything. What do you mean by that? Depends what day you're there. In the summer, it stinks. In a lot of cases, a lot of people will say that even if you are in Baden in the summer, which is, it seems like, 5 to 10 kilometers away, you'll be able to smell the dump from there. I've had somebody comment again in the YouTube videos that I've made prior to this that they have been able to smell the sulfur, which is essentially rotten eggs for those of you who don't know. And it's quite an unpleasant smell. And what I find is, I'll highlight on the map where it is quite evident on most days, is kind of this area here. This is where you're probably able to smell sulfur on any given day. I find that Vista Hills, for whatever reason, the winds do not blow north, but it is more southeasterly in terms of this awful sulfur smell. But some people can't smell it. It's hit and miss. And then, of course, you have Uptown Waterloo, right in the center of Waterloo. Very safe, a really nice downtown core in there. All of your daily conveniences can be met. You do have the LRT system, which runs right through. So if you are in Waterloo, living in Uptown or in downtown Kitchener, you don't necessarily need a car. You can easily hop on the light rail transit system. The LRT also extends. It goes from right here, from Conestoga Mall down to Fairview Park Mall, and generally follows this line here highlighted on the screen. So in the future, this area, especially here between Midtown, so you have Uptown, Downtown, and Midtown. This is going to be developed in the future. So I think property values, if you are close to the LRT, definitely will increase in the future. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. You got a ton of value from it. Maybe you'll like the next one coming up right now.